Oh, there goes that thing. Welcome to the last day of Hack the Planet. It's Amy and I this morning, and we're just gonna let everyone kind of come in and get through. We'll kind of explain how the day's gonna go, and then get into it. Bring more. I'll go back.
Ian, I don't think I can share my screen without pausing your lovely music. So.
No worries, pause it. Let's get started.
All right, let's get started. All right. So we're going to give folks a few minutes to join the call. So nothing's happening just yet. But for those who have joined, the plan here is we're going to split into just 2 rooms. In fact, we'll keep half of you in this main room and we'll send half of you to a breakout room. I think that's going to balance about the right number of teams so that we have time to see your demo videos as well as a few Q&A questions. And then we'll rejoin back in this main room. So yeah, in a few minutes here, we're going to add a breakout room. And if your challenge is listed in this number 2 breakout room category, then you will hop over to the breakout room. And if your challenge is listed in this top grouping, then you will stay in the main room with me.
It's open now. There we go.
Yeah, Ian, I guess you could just go ahead and hop over there and I can direct folks as they show up.
I will be in there. See everyone in that one.
Great, yeah, so if you are assigned to breakout room 2, you can go over and hop over there now. And if you're in the main room with me, we're gonna be waiting and directing folks as they show up for a few minutes here.
Where can I find the breakout room distribution?
Where can you find the way to add yourself to a breakout room?
Yeah, where is the breakout room distribution, whether I'm in this room or the other one?
Oh, yeah, can you see the screen that I'm sharing here?
No.
You can't see my screen share. Can anyone else see my screen share?
Yes.
Yes?
You're here.
Okay.
I can see that.
I'll just read it out for anyone who can't see it. So we've split folks up by the challenge, and if you are in the climate action educational game from Terra.do or the climate resilient property insurance dashboard from RIASC or the product recommender for sustainable buildings from Ecomedes, then you're staying with me. And if you are in any of the other 4 challenges, then you are in breakout room number 2.
And
So breakout room number 2, the challenges are New Relic, the real-time energy insights, All in Energy, the residential litter cleanup map, Watt Time, the detect unmonitored emission sources, and GitHub, the getting started guide for green software. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to double confirm for the judges. I mean, earlier there were 3 rooms, so we had a distribution. What goes through for the judges as well?
Oh, I'm sorry, for the judges. Yes, the judges is sorry, I assumed you were a attendee. The judges distribution is also here. In fact, I can drop this link in the chat for anyone who can't see my screen. So the judges staying in the main room are Manav Goel, I guess that's you. Sorry, Ian Bollinger, Abed Saifi, and Mackenzie Siren. They are all staying with me in this room. And then the remaining judges are in breakout room number 2. Great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna give it still just a few more minutes for folks to trickle in and to make sure folks end up in the correct breakout room. Oh, someone just asked about being here to watch. Yeah, I can see about assigning you to breakout room. So in general, you can join the breakout room on your own. And so in the Zoom Chrome, it's like the Zoom bar, and then you probably have to go to more and then to breakout rooms. But let me see if I can just put you right there. I have to find you first. There you go. All right, just a couple more ones. Oh, while we're waiting, how was the hackathon, y'all? I feel like I just disappeared for a day and now I get to see the incredible results, but I imagine y'all been working pretty hard for the last 24 hours. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, feel free to unmute. We're just chit-chatting here for a minute.
Yeah,
Anybody?
shout out to the technical folks on our team. They really like busted their butts to get the code working for us. And then our team was really well balanced. So I appreciate whoever was helping sign the teams. We had complementary skills.
Excellent. You know, the team assignments were almost entirely determined by challenge and then time zone, and there were only a few cases where we got to like actually, you know, try to balance the teams by by skill sets. Maybe that was your team. Oh no, someone says they started sick and now they're more sick. Oh no. Well, thanks for spending your life energy on this project. All right. I think we've probably given folks enough time to straggle on in. So the way we're going to do this is I am going to share my screen and present your pre-recorded video. I'm just going to do it in the order that it's currently sorted in the Airtable. And then since we do have some extra time, so we have about 8 projects here, so we're only expecting presentations to take maybe 32 minutes if we stuck to that 4-minute limit. So that means that we do have a few minutes for questions for each project. We'll bias towards questions from the judges first, but if the judges don't have questions, then we can have questions from the audience member. All right. Breakout room. Oh no, I'm seeing that it looks like there were some very last minute submissions that maybe didn't get assigned a breakout room. Or maybe there's some duplicates here.
There's at least one duplicate.
Yeah, like I see a duplicate.
Line 9 and 10.
Yes.
Yep.
If the 10th one is the latest one, then
Yeah, and then we'll see a bunch of submissions for the residential litter cleanup map, which is, I believe, in the other room. Let's see. Yeah. Hang on, let me go switch over to a version that has edit access. Okay, so you guys will have to help me make sure that we don't actually present the same resubmission twice. Okay. Refresh. All right, let's get started. All right, we're going to start with the product recommender for sustainable buildings challenge. Looks like we've got 3 submissions there. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so I can make sure to share my audio. All right. So we have got Shire Source, Local Sustainable Solutions. Oh, by a single member here, Jocelyn Buckley. Jocelyn, are you around? You want to turn on your video, wave your hand for a second if you're here? Awesome. All right. Well, you get the dubious honor of going first. I'm going to go ahead and share your Zoom.
Great. To Shire Source, a sustainable construction solution for locally sourced materials. The problem. Buildings represent 40% of carbon emissions and 10% are embodied in materials. Today, product research for architects to supply their clients with options is far too time-consuming, and we need faster solutions that allow architects to make sustainable recommendations to help their clients improve their impact on the planet. The solution? We need a software that allows them to factor in the cost requirements for their client's project from the very beginning so that their solution recommendations are within budget and more likely to be widely adopted. It seems one of the major issues architects face is that ultimately their great sustainable ideas are value engineered out at the last stage. Enter for architects to input all of the project requirements that they will be needing for their construction project, and they'll be able to calculate an optimal sustainable product solution for their client. This will work by the architect creating a company profile in which they can describe the appetite for sustainable solutions, describe project details that include specifics like material costs, traditional building materials that they're considering for the project, an estimated price range based on their client's preferences, the appetite for sustainability. So are they more likely to adopt these solutions, even if they are more costly? And then of course, a project timeline. We'll also have a filter here that allows the architect to determine how far away the potential vendor solution can be so that they can also stay within the necessary lead time for their project. So once you decide to complete all of these fields, you can calculate the cost, and ShireSource will output a recommendation for the allocation of materials based on the needs of the project. As you can see here, the initial project scope only yielded a 61 on the lead score estimate. Once the ideas have been run through the ShireSource calculator, there are recommendations that would improve that lead score up to an 88 based on specific recommendations for sustainable materials that are locally sourced. So later in the process, you would find a filter that allows for the architect and the client to actually see visibly what sustainable solutions are locally available to cut down on emissions and shipping and improve the overall carbon footprint of the project. This source would be filterable by location, by lead time, by cost, and of course by building material and other factors. The idea would be that the architect can determine the scope and the specific details and quickly find local solutions that would stay within budget, stay local, and of course move the needle on carbon footprint. The data sources used for this project would be input by the architect and client to determine the constraints, and also scraped from the existing data for the vendors on site. Eventually, once the project gets going, we would envision a use case for suppliers themselves to create a profile through ShireSource to promote and provide even more details on their materials and their company. So hopefully.
Oh, it looks like we maybe cut off right at the, just over the 4-minute mark. Well, not quite sure what the wrap up there was. Jocelyn, do you want to take, 20 seconds to just finish your thought there? Don't see her. All right, I'm going to stop my share for a minute. So do we have any questions from the judges first, especially the judge assigned to this challenge, who is?
I'm here.
Abid.
Yeah, it looks great. In terms of the data feeding it, the data sources, what were your thoughts about how to populate that page at the end in particular with the sources?
Hey, sorry, I'm having some internet issues. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, mainly the data sources. So that's a great flow. It looks awesome. And then how would you envision pulling all getting all that data together to be able to actually execute it?
Yeah, so obviously the architectural industry and the construction industry are very data rich, and my vision really would aim to accelerate the time frame for architects to select the product that they're recommending to their clients. So I think that when we're looking at vendor comparison or vendor filtering charts, there's a ton of characteristics and considering. But for this, I would envision this as a really early stage, like jumping off point. And so it would be data that's available, whether it's through maybe.
Jocelyn, consider turning off your video.
Depend on what features are they publishing, or further down the line, if this were to be something that would grow in scope and budget, then it could be something where this is the service that's actually scraping the data from the internet itself, and it's pulling in smaller vendors that actually might serve as a solution for the architects and the clients. So I guess the prototype that I ended up developing was kind of a hybrid where parts of it were showing early stage and parts of it were showing sort of like big picture, like broad sky, like what might this look like one day when there's a larger budget and there's more resources to dedicate towards it.
Yep.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So sort of scraping essentially kind of is the primary way of getting the product
Yes.
database, the product data.
Yeah, scraping, leveraging existing databases that are already out there. There's several startups that I found in my research that are aggregating some different suppliers, particularly in the United States. So maybe developing a partnership with them. And then a third potential path that came to mind as I was working on this is this could become a source for vendors to publish.
Lost you again.
Yeah, I lost you. I do actually need to cut us off there because we only have a few minutes for questions for you.
People are
Jocelyn,
like
I'm gonna
filling
cut you
out
off
that information themselves. Sorry.
Cool.
there.
Oh, sure.
You're cutting in and out a bit, but it's time to move on to the next project. Everyone, please do open up your chat and follow the link to the project rating form so that we can all rate the projects. So this is the audience scoring, and this will be a factor in the judge's decision. It won't be the final determinant. So can someone give me a thumbs up if they have been able to open the form and put in a submission?
Hey, Jamie, quick question. As judges, should we also be filling this out, or is that just going to be something separate?
Oh, you're welcome to, especially if it helps you, keep notes on the projects. But you also have time afterwards in the time with Ian to talk
Okay.
about the.
Cool. And we should be thinking about judging across all categories, right? Not just the one, or we should be focusing on the one that is assigned to us.
Across all challenges?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, focus on yours and also think about the
Okay.
other ones. So,
Okay.
Yeah, we should have talked about this before. But yeah, so the judges each judge for each challenge will make the final call on the winner in that challenge, so the runner-up team. And then the judges collaboratively will decide on the single grand prize winner. So you should be able to, represent the team that you think did best in your challenge, and then we can compare across the challenges to see who takes the grand prize.
Perfect. Thanks.
Great. All right. And then I did just go through and delete the duplicates. So hopefully I got the right ones. I picked the later submission if there were any duplicates. I saw a bunch of them that came in a little after the wire. So we only have actually one other team in this category, which is, let's see, the project name is Selector, and the team member is Brian. Brian, are you here? Do you want to turn on your video and give us a little wave?
Hey.
Hey, welcome. In fact, if everyone is willing to turn on their video, it does help a lot to be talking to a room full of faces instead of a room full of black screens. So I do really appreciate it when folks can turn on the videos and say hi. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share Brian's video.
Hey there, my name is Brian, and I'm going to talk with you about Selector, a product recommender for sustainable buildings. Our goal here is to help architects and designers find and select more sustainable products without hiring a consultant. We're going to focus first on our users, who makes these material selection decisions. There's three main stakeholders here. There's a developer, an architect, and a contractor. They work with each other to make these decisions. How does that actually work? Developer makes a request to an architect. Architect's usually the one setting requirements, in many cases selecting material, in many cases of those, selecting something that's new to them, and then working with the contractor who then builds the project in the most efficient way. This is a simplification here, but the contractor will usually go to the same suppliers for the same materials over and over. So the person who usually has the most of a say in looking into new materials is the architect. That's who we're going to focus on. Now, the architect, what do they care about in material selection? 1, is this compliant with regulations? Is this something they can use? 2, does it work well? 3, is it low cost? And 4, is it sustainable? Sustainability there at the bottom, still important to some people, but really primarily important is building something that works. So we need to go beyond sustainability to meet user needs and have a product that meets those other needs too. And why is that? Well, we can look at an existing example here. Google Flights. Would you use this? Would you would you look into emissions if you weren't looking at it in the context of this other flight booking experience, where you're booking something from place to place at the time you need at a price you want? For me, the answer to that is no. I expect it might be for you as well. So, what are the steps that an architect makes in material selection? Well, first, they need to find a material. Second, they need to evaluate. And third, they actually select the one they want to buy. Within the find step, they're oftentimes buying something they've used before. If not, they're using something that they're talking with colleagues about or hearing from vendors about. They're maybe doing some internet searching or finding something out in the field, but it's primarily one of those things up above. And then they're evaluating based on unique criteria. So we are going to focus on evaluation because most of that finding out happens outside of online tools, and we want to focus where we can really make the biggest difference. That makes our design challenge here. How can we help architects evaluate whether to use a material? The things that we need to do in order to enable that are these requirements here stated as user stories. As an architect, I want to find a specific product from a specific supplier, determine whether that complies with regulations, determine product quality, see the price, understand sustainability aspects, certifications, embodied carbon and operational carbon, and then only find out about the things that are relevant to me. That maps onto 3 different features here. 1, a search, 2, product details, and 3, settings to set the product details that you want to see. And we are going to take a mobile first approach here. Why? We want to enable evaluation right after finding. Finding can happen anywhere, out in the field, in a meeting, just thinking about it when you're not at a laptop, and we want to make that experience from idea to looking it up as quick as possible. So what that looks like, there's a search with the homepage here. You can see items that you have previously searched for. Then you make a search and you select what you want to see. And then from there, you go into, there's the performance aspects, the compliance aspects, sustainability, price, and description. And then you can go into compliance or sustainability, see the certificates, and then select which ones you want to see. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed the presentation and have a great rest of your day. Bye.
All right, thanks, Brian. A couple questions. Let's start with the judge for this. So I'll begin for you.
Sure.
If you-
Yeah. So I like it. So sort of focus in on, the evaluation more so than the search, right? So assumption is they've already found something, they already know what they want. And then, so what's your thinking about where that gets collected from? Like, that, are they on the internet and they find something and then they've got some kind of a clipper tool? Like, how do the products get brought into this app would be my first question.
Yeah, so there's two, and there's kind of 2 questions that I'm really picking up on there. There's one, one which is where is the data coming from, and then there's this other of where someone gets this idea for this product to look up. How is that then getting inputted into the product? Does that sound right, or is that kind of the 2 things you're looking for there, or are you looking for primarily one of those?
I guess maybe more the first. I guess they could be related, but yeah, maybe like where's the product data coming from? Because then you need to connect that product data to what are all the ratings and certifications and the bona fides in terms of sustainability.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say there's a couple major things. Number 1, similarly to the last presentation, there is some web scraping that's going on because APIs are the ideal way to get that in there, and a lot of, especially some government regulators do have APIs to get this data out. But a lot of the some of the ratings providers, some of them that some architects might care about, but they're not this huge thing. They might be small. You might need to pick the data up from their website somehow. And then there's another thing there, which is the product performance. And that can be done, Amazon has ratings, there's other sites that have ratings. And there's APIs for that rating component. So ratings, APIs, compliance, oftentimes APIs, and then the last thing, which is the certifications and carbon thing. There's a couple of sources you might just be able to pull some data straight from directly, like just do a download, then do an upload, and then in some cases scraping for those two. So yeah.
Okay, I do need to move us along here. Thanks again, Brian. Looks like that was all of our submissions for the Ecomedes Challenge. So we're moving on to the Climate Resilient Property Insurance Dashboard from REASK. I'm going to start with, looks like Team Enchanted Lobsters. I like the commitment to my randomly generated names here. So we've got Matt Hutter, Richard Cole, Jean Song, and Stanley Lee. Are any or all of you here? Would you mind turning on your video and giving us a wave? Oh, I see Matt. All right. Yeah, well, we've got at least one of you. That's enough. Okay, let's share this. Oh, and sorry, for clarification, I do want all of the audience members to rate the project. So as an audience member, please, at the end of each project, I'll drop the rating link and go ahead and submit the form for the project that we just reviewed. Okay, share screen. Oh my goodness, the Enchanted Lobster.
My name is Jean, representing Team Enchanted Lobsters for our project for REASK. This is the Figma prototype for our project, and when the user first lands on the screen, they will see a tooltip prompting them to upload their CSV file. Next, we direct them towards the tool panel where they can insert warming scenarios, risk exposure, or mitigation, which can help reduce risk. There's also the opportunity to toggle between two different tabs, and that is just exploration options. From here, we can upload a CSV. Once it is uploaded, we can continue. From here, we see a success message, and we can scroll down and see all of our charts populated. You'll notice that the warming scenarios is also here in the upper tool panel, and so it's there and always available. We can select the baseline years that are available based on our demo data, 1985, and this will populate if it was actually hooked up. And then we can also export events here. And that is everything I have for the Figma file.
There's a little peek into the back end. Ideally, in a production system, the back end would be asynchronous. This is pretty process intensive, so we don't want users waiting, staring at their screen while things process. So there's a whole system here to capture the data, make sure it doesn't get lost, and then notify the users in the future. Pretty important for data intensive applications like this. We created a Flask application, so we're able to serve up static assets like the graphs and the adjusted CSVs, and there's another endpoint which can actually take the CSVs, and I put the code that was in the Python notebook into a function instead, and we can see over here that we're able to submit our CSVs, and then the response back is an identifying number, identifying string, and then we're also able to access these generated assets outside of the notebook context where they could be served up onto our front end.
In an ideal world, you would be able to search for a location through the CSV, through this search bar. You would also be able to sort by the year through the CSVs that you've uploaded, as well as with warming scenarios up to 3 degrees Celsius, risk exposure of different types, and mitigation, if there were any, through here, you'd be able to upload your CSV. A future update would be a projected yearly loss graph. And currently we have the ability to display the loss exceedance probability graph and the summary of stats graph that are handled on the back end.
And that is it for our Figma prototype, our backend, and our front end, presented by Team Enchanted Lobsters.
Thank you, team. Wow, you all had the, the full suite of skills here, the design, the PM, front end and back ends. All right, let's see if we have any questions for this team. I did notice, Ian, did you get kicked out and then just get back into the room? Our judge for this submission.
Hey,
well, I'm not
can you hear
sure
me?
we have...
Sorry.
Oh, yes, there you are.
Yeah,
Hey.
sorry. I was just switching over from phone to computer there. Cool. That was awesome. Thank you for that. A couple questions. The first one, and I know this kind of came up as you guys were working, but you kind of briefly touched on this, like, I think it was there was an exposure type drop down and a mitigation drop down. Can you just explain more about what those mean or what you had in mind for that? I'm not totally clear on that yet.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So in terms of exposure, it is more so in the scenario where, depending on an insurer, where they are insuring, like if it was like California, there's probably less chance that there's a hurricane happening there. But there could still be chances, you never know, in, 2 to 3 degrees C. So it's kind of just like looking into the future. So if that is like less relevant to the insurer, and of course, this is something that we can find out if we're able to do more user interviews and things like that. Then they can actually choose to see based on just like insurance damages related to a hurricane or fire, like wildfires.
Okay.
Like there is kind of, in my mind, there's like this ideal future scenario where we're also able to just separate based on damages. So like if there is a hurricane, then perhaps damages can be just associated with wind damage or with flooding, and then those are more relevant in terms of claims processing. So just some ideas there, and these are like kind of high in the sky in the future. I know we ask questions, and I know the data isn't really available in many of these scenarios, but I feel like these are things that can be helpful for the insurer when they're drawing up their plans. And then a mitigation, we just through our research and also our team discussion, like things came up around mitigation being kind of the ideal space where if mitigation was put into place, it creates profit for the insurers because it's less likely that people need to follow up on those claims or to file a claim. And then also it's just great for people to not have loss or damage in the first place. So if there is a space for mitigation to be more nuanced, like where the insurers can make recommendations for very specific and they know it's effective kind of mitigation in order to bring down premiums for folks, then this is a space where I'm like, there's so much room for exploration, so little that we do know. And so all this is like more related to pie in the sky. But right now the mitigation is more like, yes, mitigation has taken place in the ideal capacity, or no. It's just yes or no. But
cool.
yeah,
mitigation in this context being like hardening of sites and assets rather than mitigating
emissions mitigation. Yeah.
Well,
right. Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm imagining I don't have time for another.
Yeah, I think we need to move on. Yeah, we have
cool.
4 more.
Nice job.
Time is about right. All right, we have our second submission in that same category, Clima Risk by Drew, George, Amaru, and Austin. Do we have any of those people in the room?
Yeah, I think we have 3 of us out here.
Great, excellent. All right, let me go ahead and share your presentation.
Hi, everyone. We are Team Fanatical Bee, and we are excited to present you the Climate Resilient Property Dashboard for REASK. We have 3 main users: the insurance companies that insure assets against damages, the reinsurance companies that provide insurance to other insurance companies, and the ILS traders who are investors that speculate on hurricanes, earthquakes, and pandemics. Their goal is to compare the risk to their investment with up-to-date climate data, and the outcome is decisions on who they insure based on the latest climate data. So users start with feeding location and value of assets. Reask then models future scenarios based on the latest climate data. This enables a comparison for insurance companies. That can be leveraged for social impact in addition to insurance coverage decisions. We developed a UX prototype for this wherein a user can log into the dashboard. Here you can see the guidance flow can guide the user in 3 simple steps to get to the climate change data tables compared to the original insurance data. You can upload the target field, select the baseline and the target years, and hit submit to see the visualizations in terms of data tables and the CSV files if the user wants. You can also check the AI chatbot for any additional help. For the systems flow, we built 2 backend APIs using the source code provided for the challenge. One API calls the adjust LYT function to output plots and LYT adjusted data. The other API fetches the diagrams outputted by the function. So here's a quick demo of the user functionality for the dashboard. So a user can upload a CSV file and next they can select their target kind, which determines if the climatology should be seasonal or a climate model output. So we'll stick with FCT. You can select the baseline year. So we can select a range used for the baseline climatology, and then the target years to use used for the climate of the adjusted LYT. So, okay, so we hit submit, and I'll go to the next tab here to show the results, and it renders the 3 diagrams that get outputted by the adjusted LYT function on the back end, and also the LYT adjusted data in tabular format. Okay. Lastly, regarding social impact, in future iterations, we hope to provide insurance companies with the ability to invest in vulnerable communities, keeping customers and enabling their resilience. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, team. Do we have questions for this? Starting with Ian.
Awesome. Yeah. This is really cool to see. I think I have 2 similar questions, which are both what I was going to ask the last group. So I'll ask the same one to get some context. The social impact and vulnerability side, considering, and this is kind of me elaborating on the context that I probably didn't do a perfect job of explaining before. And so we as a provider have the hazard information, the how climate change is affecting the frequency and intensity of hurricanes. We don't necessarily have the tools to model the actual damages or the loss that kind of comes as an input in that YLT. How do you think we can, given the piece of the puzzle that we're solving, which is how can you update this to a different climatology of storms? How can we integrate that social impact component or vulnerability component? That is, if we don't have the ability to understand exactly how mitigation measures might affect a given house's chance of loss.
I think I can take a little bit of that. The thing that we were kind of discussing that didn't get modeled out entirely because we ran out of time was to be able to display and show areas of ranges that the insurance companies could look at as call it a second tier for lack of a better word, but a second tier of areas where if they hardened those investments, they could actually keep those customers without too much loss on their end. So I think from that perspective, like just being able to provide some visibility or transparency of the area that they have like a tolerance of risk that they're willing to take, and then like the next tier to that, being able to show that without, you don't really need mitigation data for that. You could just show them that second tier.
Yeah, just to add on that, like we were thinking of developing like a dashboard, like a GIS, geospatial dashboard that links climate risks to like financial risks of these vulnerable areas. So like just visualizing it on geospatial maps, I think that would be a way, like Amaru mentioned, to get that vulnerable index for these areas.
Yeah, there's a resource called Probable Futures. It's a nonprofit that's like doing this to help vulnerable communities like become more aware.
All right,
Cool.
I need to
Thanks.
move the presentations along. Thanks again, team. We're moving on to the next and final challenge that we'll be looking at in this room, which is the Climate Action Educational Game, sponsored by Terra.do. Again, in a bit of an arbitrary order, our first team here is the Risks and Rewards of Climate Action from Keith Baldwin. Keith, are you here?
I am.
Excellent. All right, let's
Hello.
go ahead and share your presentation.
Hello, my name is Keith Baldwin. I'm a software developer in Washington, D.C. My goals for this hackathon are to complete it. This is my first hackathon, so go easy on me. I also wanted to learn by diving in the deep end some new technologies. I'm using React to code my game and the Copilot AI to help me code it up. I've published it on github.io. And the content of the game is really a reflection on my takeaways from Terra.do's Learning for Action program that I completed a couple months ago. As you can see, the game is a quiz of actions you can take to help fight climate change. The first question here, what can you do to reduce the impact of transportation? The first selection you can make is a scope, whether you're going to be acting on an individual level, a community or neighborhood level, or a national or global level. And your second option is to select your level of effort. Do you want to do something at a low effort or cost, a medium level, or a high level or cost? So for this one, let's choose, we'll buy an EV. We'll select that. And along with the higher level of effort or cost, you realize some actions won't always work out. And that is okay. You're still making an effort. You're still looking into it. In this case, the result is that you decided you weren't able to afford an EV right now. The second question that I put up is, what policy or lifestyle change can you help enact? Again, you have all the different options. And this time, as an individual, I can change my light bulbs or say, turn down the thermostat. I'll choose that action. And that was a success. I'm still pretty comfortable while using less energy. Well done. You see that every action has an associated number of points that you get. This could be associated with carbon reduction. And then you see some intelligent feedback that says, in this case, you took a lot of individual actions. That's great, but also consider joining others, because that's how big changes are going to happen. Remember, every action counts. I hope you appreciated my game, the idea of risk and reward, of cost and scope, and providing useful feedback.
All right, thank you, Keith. For some reason, that reminded me a little bit of Oregon Trail. It's like I made a decision and then I died of dysentery. It's like, oh, you can't afford a car. Kind of beside the point. All right, let's start with questions from our judge for this category, who is Manav, if you have a question.
First of all, many congratulations on completing most of your goals, which is amazing to see. I'm also a fellow Terra.do member, probably like 2 years ago. So feel you there. Thank you so much for doing this. I think I was very like interested in how you thought about both risks and rewards. Uh, People generally focus on the rewards angle, and this was sort of very I mean, enlightening in a way that you're putting front and center of risk and reward, both the things, right? So how did that come about, and how do you think this should like what's your vision on putting that front and center across everything, right? Because that's a very novel idea and it's actually an important one, right?
That's a great question, and that's one of my big takeaways from taking the Terra.do. I realized in my personal life, I had taken a lot of individual actions, and that felt good. I'm a vegetarian and I take public transportation, but really kind of learning that that's not going to change the world. That's great, and if we all do that, that's fantastic, and hopefully I can set an example for my friends and neighbors. But being part of a larger effort could have the more systemic change that we need to see, but it also, you run up against the risk that it might not happen. You might try to start a movement or do something at a larger level that might not come to fruition. And I wanted to capture that. And so, yeah, in the game, when you select an action, there's some kind of randomness that says whether that action succeeds or not. And then you get some points. If it succeeds, you get more points than if it fails, but I also wanted to reward just the effort. So you still get some amount of points, even if your action fails. So just kind of trying to capture all those ideas went into the game mechanic that I came up with. And I was thrilled to be able to come up with a working prototype in just a couple of days.
Yeah, you
Thank
did
you.
amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's really cool to see the hackathon be an excuse to learn new tools. I love that you shared that up front. We do need to move on. We've got 2 more submissions in this category, which I think is going to have us right on time. So as a reminder, audience members, I do keep dropping the link to rate the project, so please do that at the end of each presentation. Our next presentation will be from the Concerned Lion game team. We've got Garisha, Angela, Yufa, and Nick. Do we have at least one of you in the room?
Yufa's here.
All right, excellent. I will go ahead and start sharing. Oh, looks like we got a Drive link.
Hi, everyone. We are Team 7 with Concerned Lion Game, a climate navigation simulator. Our team is Garisha, Angela, Yufa, and Nick.
Our game is a safe space for youth ages 13 and up to learn to navigate challenges rooted in climate change with a sense of empowerment and hope. The player embarks on a hero's journey through diverse walks of life with visceral emotional storytelling. They learn their choices and consequences are in their hands. Our players get a chance to learn the intricacies of how climate challenges can be dealt with and are validated in their anger and frustration, while also being given the tools to make a change.
Meet the protagonist, a 15-year-old climate immigrant, Niti, who finds herself as a stranger in a strange land in Detroit, Michigan, after being sent by her parents to America due to climate change. She will face daily challenges as she begins her freshman year. She will find herself alone, frustrated, and powerless. She will also find opportunities to practice courage, empathy, and expressing herself just as she is. As Detroit faces the hottest summer in history, follow Niti's journey as she brings her school together and saves her town from climate change.
Now we're ready to play the game. Enter your very own narrative-driven, text-based climate adventure. You're now the protagonist of this story. Feel the experience, who they are, where they're from, and the climate challenge they face. You will have to make choices that impact the outcome of the narrative. If it's game over, think what you could have done differently. If you succeed, congratulations, you're ready for climate action.
You started. You see. Here you are, Niti. Today is your first day of high school, and you are about to go on an epic adventure to discover who you are and save Detroit from climate change. Wait, I just jumped ahead of myself here. Today is your first day of high school, and you are about to have a problem. As soon as you open your mouth, other kids start laughing at your accent. That sounds so weird. Go back to China, they call out. You don't understand. You learned English in Sri Lanka, but nobody back home ever made fun of your accent. In fact, you all have the same accent. You feel mad, angry, hurt, and ashamed. At morning recess, you hide yourself behind the gym to cry by yourself. You jump when someone taps on you in the shoulder. It's your school counselor, Dr. Kamal Kapadia. You are shocked to see she is South Asian, just like you are. She signals you to follow her into her office and asks you what's wrong. As soon as she opens her mouth, you are shocked again to hear she has your accent. I'm not alone, you think. She listens patiently to how awful you feel and how frustrating you can't make them stop. Counselor Kamal is kind and she makes you feel at home where nothing is wrong and someone always has your back.
Together, let's navigate the challenges of climate displacement through role-play storytelling and empathy. Thank you.
Wow, I have goosebumps right now. You all did not turn away from the hard questions here. Thank you for sharing this game. Questions from our judge here.
Thank you so much, Concerned Lions. I think I love two parts of it. Just want to call that out upfront. I think the angle of on youth and the hard questions, right? That was really, really, really beautiful because I think in all these sometimes we forget the hard questions. So amazing, amazing job, guys. Wanted to understand like why did you put youth as your first theme in playing the games across like everyone else, right? Across all ages. Just curious to understand the why behind that theme.
So the thinking is basically most climate education is geared towards adults. And I feel like if you want to create a change, it starts from childhood. You got to give the tools and the skills from the very beginning. So we first thought, okay, children and youth, but there's also this thing of you want to create a safe space for children if we're dealing with children under 13. So just to keep that safety there, we start from age 13 and up. Obviously adults can play it as well, but it's more so to give that space for youth to feel a sense of like belonging and they can learn something, which, you know, once they turn into adulthood, they can take forth those tools and apply it into their life.
Beautiful. Just as a side note, I work at Meta. We can connect, and there's some beautiful things that can come.
All right, we do have to move along to our last submission here, I think right on time. Last team here is Terra Park with teammates Anne, Anaya, and Helen. We have at least one of you all in the room.
I think we're all here, so.
You're all here. Excellent. All right, let's go ahead and share.
Hello, and welcome to Terra Park. Terra Park is a climate action educational game which is aimed at GCSE geography students aged 14 to 16 in the UK. It covers a number of topics about climate change, sustainability and inequality, which are included in the GCSE geography syllabus. It can be used as a classroom or homework activity. There are two main objectives of the game. The first is to give the player a better understanding of how local nature-based solutions can help us mitigate and adapt to climate change, and also the co-benefits of climate positive actions. And the second objective is to inspire the player to make meaningful climate action in their local area by managing their own garden or window box and by inspiring players to join a local community garden. The context of the game is that you, the player, live in the centre of London in the UK. There's a community garden around the corner from your home, but this garden has been poorly managed for the last several years, and the plants in it are also suffering from the effects of climate change. And as you click through the game, you'll see some information about each of these sections. You have volunteered to manage the garden and bring it back to life. And there are 4 main goals in managing the garden. The first is to attract more people to come and spend time in the garden. The second is to make sure the garden survives in the future as the climate is changing. The third is to ensure that all actions are taken in the management of the garden are as climate friendly as possible. And the fourth is to educate local citizens about how the actions you're taking are climate friendly. You'll be given 4 scenarios as you work through the game, and each of these will teach you more about how to be more climate friendly. The first is the scenario has a character, and there's a character for each question. Each character will give you some background and then present you with a problem to work through. So the first are Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and they're worried about the roses in the garden dying and why these roses are not being looked after properly. There are 2 options that you're then given to choose from. Let's say in this case you choose the first option, which is to add liquid fertiliser to the soil. You will notice that the sound effects change, the background of the game changes, and this whole question is in fact around climate adapting plants. So that option you chose was not the correct answer, and you gained some information here about why it was not the correct answer. There are also lots of links throughout the game that increase the educational value by taking you to external websites with more information. So if you got the wrong answer as this is the case, you can go back, you can choose the correct answer, and then you'll again work through, again the backgrounds change, you'll again work through to find why this second option is the better answer. I've shown you the first scenario. The second scenario is all around green transport. And here you have to choose whether or not you would like to implement some cycle paths. If you do, you'll see the benefits of those cycle paths, how they can be maintained in a way that's safe and also gives a lot of other benefits to residents of the park, including reducing surface runoff and reducing flooding. The third scenario is whether or not you should be mowing the lawn more. And this will give some information about the benefits and disadvantages of mowing. And if you say you would like to leave some of the grass unmown, then this will give information about why that's a good idea in terms of benefiting the biodiversity of the area and improving carbon stores. And then the fourth scenario is around running food banks, and this links how we can actually be helping climate change by building more food projects in a local area, reducing food miles and reducing carbon footprints, while also having co-benefits of improving people's health and well-being. Once you've moved through that at the end of the game, it asks you how you would take action around climate change, and you can summarise each of these different things that you've learnt through working through the game and how you've been educated about how to be more climate friendly.
Wow, thank you. Those were some beautiful visuals. A little time for questions, Manav.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for inspiring us all. One question that I had again was nature-based solutions, right? Like that stood out as a theme. That is very beautiful in itself as well. How do you see that sort of transcending beyond London, right? Like each place will have its own unique solution, right? So I know like you might not have had the thought of it in the hackathon space, but very different solutions, very different things based on locations, right? So how do you bring about that into your game?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I think if I'll take this one to start with, but that we wanted to start off by grounding it in one location, I think, because we felt that then we could give really accurate links, really good background information, like clear information about that one location. But of course, you're completely right that the climate is changing differently in different areas, different ways that people will need to adapt and mitigate to that in the different regions. So I think this one game we have here is kind of based around London, but one way would be to create similar games for other locations around the UK, around the world, with different climate data, different information about how the local council and the government is dealing with that, solutions, realistic options for people who are living in those different areas. There could also be kind of an extension at the end of this game as well, which might ask you questions about how do you think the climate's changing in other parts of the world? How might people be responding in other parts of the world as well? So even if people are based in the UK or living in London and working with that, then they're gaining really important information about other areas as well.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It looks like we absolutely nailed our timing in our room, but the other room, they are behind time. Blame Ian for that. So I think we have a couple options here. I think 2 options for all the audience members right now. You can either hop over to the breakout room and watch the remaining presentations there, or you can hang out here and just kind of chit chat with me until the other breakout room closes. Once all those presentations are done, we will come back to the main room. I'll have a little presentation on how to keep hacking for the climate while the judges deliberate. And then around 10:30, I'm guessing it's gonna go a little later, maybe more like 10:45, we will have the announcement of the winners. So either go to the breakout room or just kind of hang out here with me. And before you leave, please rate the project.
I was going to suggest that if you hang out here, we could maybe just reinforce what we've learned in the hackathon or what we've observed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can just hang out here and just kind of chat for sure. Yeah, so hang out here and chat with me or pop over. Yeah, so for chatting, I mean, really, we can just open the floor. Yeah, what did you take away from the hackathon? What was fun, hard, surprising, different? Matt, go ahead.
Can I start?
Yeah, the time constraint.
Yeah, sorry, can you you can go ahead.
Yeah, so the time constraint was like the really hard part about all of this. Like it's difficult to come up with something in, a little over 24 hours, 36 hours. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things that it would have been nice to have a little extra time on Sunday as well, but it is Father's Day, so I understand.
All right, Anaya, I think you were ready to go next. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that it was really amazing working with the group I got it. It was really fun getting to know them and working together with like people from different places. I'm from Brazil, and working with someone from Canada and someone from the UK, that was really amazing for me.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that the time zones weren't too much of a problem with that.
No, we worked it out. It was another challenge to work it, but it was very fun.
Yeah,
that's really great.
I was going to say it was great working with you as well. And yeah, it was the first time I've kind of done this cross-world working like by Zoom and everything. So it was very cool and really enjoyed it. So, and brilliant team. So yeah.
Brian, go ahead.
All right, yeah. So yeah, one thing I really liked was the availability of I guess I don't remember what we're calling them, but like the experts or like the office hours people. Everyone was really helpful, and I think it really helped me guide my project. I think one thing that I hope there's the next one of these. One thing that I think would be great next time around
would be on the team building part, because it feels like when I kind of you put in like only like one team, only like some time zones that you would want to work with. So like maybe like a stack ranking of that. So it's easier to put, because as you know, the team for me, with me being in Central European time, was a bit difficult. So being able to kind of have more of a stack rank would be nice. Or even like, push to recruit more folks in like Europe, Africa, Middle East time would be nice too. Yeah, I think those are that's an awesome thing, and a thing that next time would be great to see.
Yeah, actually, in general, I'm really excited to hear any feedback, constructive or positive, that you have about structuring the hackathon. Definitely, I think a learning moment for me was trying to put together the teams in that hour before the session, and then that went fine. But then during the team selection Zoom, having only a subset of folks who submitted show up, and then needing to like kind of rearrange the teams on the fly, that was a little difficult. So I'm definitely taking notes on trying to revise that to make that a little bit of a smoother process. Yeah, so please share any thoughts you have, any suggestions. Always open to iterating. I like iterating.
Yeah. Well, one thing on that, another hackathon that I participated in last year, or 2022, I forget, did it like they had like a day or two ahead of time for people to like introduce each other and meet teams. It was a little bit chaotic, but maybe we could combine like some of take some of that approach with some of what you did, and kind of have a best of both worlds kind of thing.
Yeah, that does seem good. Like basically, I think it is better when teams get to kind of select themselves versus just getting straight assigned. So maybe the like preferences form and making that available to everyone, and then having a little bit of a self-selection. Yeah, okay. Great feedback, thank you. Amaru.
Yes, hello. I was just gonna say the team that did the storyboard, I forgot the name of it. But the EQ skills one, just really, it was so awesome to see a challenge that I didn't use, and then to see and be reminded the power of storytelling and how much that can really like help not just solutions, but like really just tell the story. So that was really wonderful, a wonderful reminder. And then I think in terms of feedback, I actually loved being randomly selected to a bunch of strangers that I got to work with. So that was fun. And I think the only suggestion I have is there's a part of me that like really loved this as a concept of like a halftime. Like if we just checked in on what we all had, and then we had like 2 or like a 24 hours more, and you can like either pivot or you can whatever.
Ooh.
That would be super fun because it was like so much information, even hearing the cross-pollination of the challenges, that I feel like I'm like energized to go like V2 on some of our concepts. So
That's so great to hear, actually. Actually, side connection to our course, and I'll talk a little bit about this later, but we actually do exactly that in our course with the final projects, where you work on a team with other people for your final project and you do a lot of work, and then we have these peer presentations about a week before the final presentations, and folks have had such positive feedback about that. It's basically exactly that, where you get these like diverse inputs on your progress so far, and then maybe pivot, maybe just, iterate before the final presentation. So it hadn't occurred to me to bring that into a hackathon, but I think that's a really cool idea to, maybe consider for the next iteration. Okay, it looks like Ian is back here, our delinquent breakout room number 2, running over time.
Sorry, we had a couple, I guess, submissions that didn't make it to the Airtable for whatever reason. So we went a little bit over. Also, adding to our delinquency, if you can take a moment and kind of go through this Airtable link, and make sure that you're rating anyone's projects as well that you saw in that breakout room there.
Oh no, did you not do the audience ratings?
Okay. We got a little sidetracked. Myself, with all my tasks.
We were just talking about feedback for the next time, so we'll take some notes there.
I've got a lot of feedback, I'm sure.
You know what? I think it's great to put out like a rough draft first time and then iterate for the next ones. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. So I think we need a breakout room for Ian and the judges to deliberate. And in the meantime, I've got just a little presentation on how to keep hacking for the climate, how to keep the momentum alive. Ian, I will wait for you to
How many rooms did that just create? Oh, no, that created, sorry.
I will assume that Ian's gonna sort out the judges room, and I guess if the judges
I'm
get the
working on it. Apparently, if you you accidentally reopen a room, everyone that's in it goes back into it. So that is my bad. But they will be back.
Oh no. Oh no. Okay, well then I'll wait because then maybe some of our participants might have gotten redirected somewhere. I'll give it a minute.
Maybe the participants become the judges.
I think the judges are back here. That breakout room was closing, if that makes sense.
Okay,
Well,
everyone is
yeah.
The judges room is created. Judges, I will move you in there if you don't pop in and join that, but if you can just hop into that, would be great. All right, everyone's in the right spot. Sorry about that. All right, you're good, Jamie. Thank you.
I'm able to. Okay, cool.
So, yeah. All right, I've got a little presentation on how to keep hacking for the climate. If you have attended our webinar, Coding for Climate Impact, then some of this is the same content, so I apologize. If you haven't, then this will be fresh and new for you. So how to keep hacking for the climate. Let me actually start for a minute just with my background, like why am I qualified to talk about this? I mean, in some ways, maybe nobody is because it's such a big topic. But my background is I've got about a decade of experience in the software industry, and most of that has been working at these different climate tech startups. And so the way that I think about software and climate is really using my software skills as these high leverage impact for solving climate problems. So a lot of what I talk about here is really with that lens. First off, why software and climate? You know, I think if you're at this hackathon, maybe you're already convinced by this, but I have some reasons why software is actually very relevant to climate. This quote is from one of our friends of ours who runs this website called Climate Papa, and he introduces it with this this opinion that I think many folks have, which is that, you know, climate change is a very physical problem and it's a very political problem. And so it's not obvious that software has a place for that because we need to remove greenhouse gases from the air or stop emitting them. And how does moving pixels around on a screen really help with that? And, you know, obviously, we disagree with this. Software has a huge place. Even though climate change is fundamentally a problem with the physical world, software is just such a huge leverage arm for making changes that there's absolutely a place for software. I think a lot of folks are familiar with this quote, software is eating the world. This was actually the title of a very disruptive article by this VC founder called Mark Andreessen about a decade or so ago. And his point was really looking at all these different entrenched industries and then having examples of software companies that came in and just totally turned the industry on the head, completely disrupted it. So Airbnb built this, you know, a software app for a marketplace for vacation rentals and disrupted the hospitality industry. Uber, same thing for taxi services, and so on down the line. So his point was you can look at examples of software companies disrupting existing industries. But I like to follow up this quote with a lesser known quote by Satya Nadella, who's the current CEO of Microsoft. And his quote, his argument is that every company is a software company. It's not just that there are a few software companies that are disrupting the world. It's actually that it's essentially table stakes in our modern world to have software involved in your company at this point. And the reason for that, I like to look at this history of innovation cycles. So this is taking a step back and looking at this big picture of the last several hundred years of human technological innovation, essentially, and looking at these waves of innovations that disrupted the world that we lived in. So starting with this first wave of water power and textiles, and then a second wave of steam power and rail, and having, you know, increased connection between our communities, and then third wave of electricity, which we think is, you know, pretty fundamental to our world now. Fourth wave of aviation, you know, increased globalization of our human species. A fifth wave, very much, we've been all living this. If we're alive right now, we are living the fifth wave, which is the internet, software, digital networking. And then what I love about this graphic is its projection forward of the sixth wave, and that the sixth wave explicitly calls out clean tech, which in my opinion is the most optimistic way to think about the climate change challenge, which is that if we succeed against climate change, it will be because we have a sixth wave of innovation that puts clean tech central to everything about how our world operates. And I just really love that framing. And software, I think, is fundamental to any essentially tech company that's moving forward at this point. So that's kind of why software and climate, and it may really have been preaching to the choir for all of you who are in tech and joining a Hack for the Planet hackathon. So the question really though is, what can you do aside from joining this hackathon? There's a few answers to this, and the first off really has nothing to do with your tech expertise, which is you can just spend your own time and money. You can vote, you can donate toward causes that are, you know, helping solve the problem. You can invest or change your current investments from ones that are funding fossil fuels to ones that are funding climate change solutions. But more interesting to this particular audience is that you can apply your skills in your career. I did explicitly add this volunteer option, given that the context here is that we're in a hackathon. So you can change nothing else about your life, but you can volunteer some of your free time to apply your tech skills in whatever medium you can discover. So hackathons would be an example. There are some open source opportunities that I'll talk about in a minute. Yeah, there's lots of ways, or you can basically find ways to volunteer your skills without, you know, changing your day job. Second, you can, again, not change your day job, but you can influence your current company. So this might be, say you're a software engineer at a company that has nothing to do directly with fighting climate change. You could still influence your current company to maybe decarbonize their software products, or to make more sustainable choices as a company. And lastly, and this really is where my background comes in, is that you can actually join or start a climate tech company that is explicitly mission oriented around fighting climate change. So myself and my partner, both husband and business partner, this is where we've really focused our careers. First with basically joining companies that were doing this. So we worked at Energy Savvy, which was doing home energy efficiency stuff. And then we worked at Osmo, which was doing sustainable aquaculture stuff. And then a few other past companies there. But then most recently, we joined together to make our software for climate consultancy. And so now we both basically work with climate tech companies, and then we do these educational like things, collaborations with Terra.do. So yeah, you can really do any of this. I want to, since we're talking about hackathon, I want to look at a few specific opportunities to do that first item, to do the like volunteering or the open source. These are the ones that jumped out to me, honestly, specifically from the Work on Climate Slack workspace. Folks ask this exact question. They're like, I want to work on climate in my spare time. What are the best open source opportunities out there? And these are the two that I listed above here are the big ones that jumped out. Open Sustainability Tech is an incredibly comprehensive list of open source projects in sustainable technology. It's like honestly overwhelmingly comprehensive. It's just like a sheet of like hundreds of open source projects that are related to fighting climate change. I think the problem here would be picking which one you think you care about, but that is an incredible resource if you are looking to contribute to open source projects in climate tech. I think this is almost a one-stop shop. I found also this open energy transition. This is another one of the big resources that was mentioned. This one is more specific. It is like a specific open source project, and it sounds like they're specifically looking for open source contributors. So the first one, very comprehensive. The second one is a bit more of a specific option. And the third one, this is actually kind of a meta suggestion here. One of the things in my own process of getting more and more involved in climate change and climate change impact was discovering how motivating it was to just find other people who cared. And Work on Climate is, in my opinion, one of the best online communities for that. It's easy. I'm pretty sure it's free to join. You go to workonclimate.org and then you can join the Slack workspace, and it's just chock full of folks who are working on climate. It's folks posting jobs, it's folks looking for jobs, folks posting gigs, folks looking for open source, what places to contribute to open source. It's just really, in my opinion, my first stop whenever I have a question or want to do something about climate. I go to Work on Climate first. Let's see, I see a question from the audience here. Have we all hacked on the energy intensity of software and AI? I think this is a really interesting question. I think I mentioned this in the kickoff that when I think about software and climate, I think of two main like paths. And so one of them is the path that I've pursued, which is using software to fight climate change. And the other is reducing the climate change impact, or specifically the carbon footprint of software. And that second path has been really, I really haven't pursued that personally. I am aware that it's an option, and obviously it came up here in the GitHub green guide or getting started guide for green software. There is a Terra.do course for that that's like on decarbonizing digital digital products, I think. And that's just really not my expertise. So I've been much more on that first path of how to use software to fight climate change, and the course that we run is all focused on that. So absolutely it's a thing, and I'm just not the person to talk about it. Let me wrap up my thoughts here, and then we'll just move into Q&A. So aside from volunteering time, you could also find a job. I have a lot to say on the opportunities for finding jobs and how you might break into this overwhelming space of the intersection of software and climate. For now, kind of just suffice it to say that there are a ton of climate companies and there's a ton of job openings. I drop this reference always. This is my friend's site, Climate Tech List, who has basically just like scraped the entire internet to aggregate all of the jobs related to climate. So that's a great resource if you just need to get convinced that there's jobs out there. And lastly, if you want to work on climate and you're a software engineer, but you just don't quite feel like you have the right skill set, or you just need momentum, honestly, then I do want to take a moment to selfishly recommend the course that I teach with Terra.do. So we have the Software for Climate course. It's really very focused on how to use software to fight climate change. We specifically look at 4 topics, 4 essentially specializations within software that are really relevant to most companies working on climate change. So the 4 topics are looking at public data sources, geospatial and AI, energy modeling, and the software hardware interface. And this isn't to say that these are the only things that are relevant, but just that these are ones that come up time and time again across lots of different companies. These are just particularly helpful skill sets to have if you are a software engineer or you're in tech and you want to work on climate. So in addition to the deep dives, we actually start out the course with a bigger overview of the software climate landscape. And we end the course with a really fun final portfolio project that I think for all of you who just participated in the hackathon will feel a little bit like this hackathon, but with more time and breathing space to give it justice. And you'll come out with really a resume-ready portfolio project. And hopefully friends that you made in working on the project together. All right, that is as much as content as I have. And now I'm just happy to open it up to questions. If possible, let's have folks actually raise their hands and verbalize the questions. It's not just me talking to the empty room.
Hey, thanks for that. I'm just jumping in to say my question out loud, a little bit more context on specific recommendations to keep this going for non-developers. When I looked at the first link that you sent in your 3 suggestions, it was just like a list of what looked like a list of code bases that yeah, it's a little bit impenetrable for someone with my skill set. So just curious what you'd suggest for someone with more of a kind of product manager operations background to get into this further. Thank you.
Yeah, I can definitely give you my opinion on that, which is that I do think it's a little harder basically as a project manager to jump into a project and be able to help. I think software is this like very versatile skill set. And so, and because it has this big open source community built around it, I think it can be a little more tractable to, kind of jump in, have a side project where you do a little bit. In my opinion, and with my experience of being a PM, I do think it's probably harder, and I don't actually have great recommendations on how to keep doing this in a lower key volunteer like path. And my recommendation would essentially be to bias more towards those higher effort paths in which you either influence your current company or maybe jump career tracks and move to a different company. I will say that our course is actually structured really explicitly to support non-software engineers as well as software engineers. And in fact, I think we have a few course alumni, so if anyone wants to jump in and second me on this, but we do support folks with no coding experience in our course, and you will still get an overview of all these concepts that are relevant, which might help you get a job in the space. Oh, let's go ahead. Yeah, Jennifer, what do you have to say? She's an alumnus.
Hi there, I'm a course alum and I'm not being paid or getting any kickback for saying this, but I really loved the course. It was amazing. I also took the Learning for Action course, but I found the software and hardware stacks course really helpful and applicable. And since then, I've been doing contract work in the climate and AI space, like the intersection of those two for an MIT professor. And the course really helped me get to that. And the instructors have been kind enough to help me with some questions after the course too, not trying to like put more stuff on their plate by mentioning that, but the course really helped me learn and also significantly increased my income from this this type of work. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, I think it's really great to hear from past fellows. Let's see, Drew, looks like you got a question.
Hey, hi, Jamie. Thanks for this presentation. I think I resonated a lot with this, and I love the fact that you all are doing this. I had a question on this on the startup space. So, like, do you guys have any resources on, like accelerator programs or for young people to get into that space? Like brainstorm on specifically climate issues and software related accelerator programs, like if that, because I know a lot of accelerator programs that do that, but nothing focuses, at least I don't know anyone that focuses on climate tech. So
there are a ton of accelerator programs that focus on climate tech. I mean, so much so that I can rattle off a few and it's not going to be nearly comprehensive. We've specifically worked, there's an accelerator called Generator. There's number 8 somewhere in the name if you're Googling it. One of our clients was, or maybe is still, a member of one of the cohorts there. There's a really cool climate and social equity accelerator that we've just started to work with. Actually, they're more like an incubator called Halcyon. They're in the DC area. There's so many, and I can't think of them off the top of my head. I'm not even sure if I can think of a resource that would list them all. I might start with, there's a newsletter called Climate Tech VC that looks a lot basically at the startup space in climate tech, and they may have a list of accelerators. Yeah, I think the best answer that I can give you off the top of my head is that there are so many out there and you just have to find them. And it probably would help a lot to find a climate specific one, because they're going to be very motivated to support you in your climate solution startup. So
yeah, I know Greentown Labs is a pretty good one here in
Greentown
Texas.
Labs. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thanks for that answer.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have like a better one-stop shop other than saying they exist. Oh yeah, Jennifer says Elemental Accelerator. We have another connection to them. There's so many and they're just not on the tip of my tongue. What other questions do we have? Jocelyn.
Hi, sorry, I'm still having internet issues. I don't know if you can see or hear me, but I wanted to say thank you so much for hosting this. This has been so inspiring to see how everyone from different disciplines and with different expertises have really tackled these prompts. It's been, just wonderful to learn about and see how everyone has thought through all of these different issues. But kind of in that vein, I was wondering, is there any opportunity, I know there's a Slack channel, but is there any sort of spreadsheet where we might connect and sort of chat more with each other about the different ideas that have been circulating today?
That is an excellent question. I don't have an answer for you other than the Slack, and I'm actually not sure how long that Slack will stay active. So this might be a question more for the like administrative coordinator, who's Kirti from Terra.do, and she's on Singapore time, so she's not here right now. But if you in the Ask Questions channel in the Slack, if you message her, or if you tag her, she'll probably have an answer for that. But I would absolutely for now just point folks towards the Slack workspace.
Okay, sounds great. And then if no one else had a question, I was also wondering, have you guys done this before, and has anything come of some of the projects that were shared or considered?
No, this is the inaugural Hack for the Planet hackathon. So we don't know anything specifically coming out. This is, I will say, similar in many ways to the final projects from our course, which we have run 3 cohorts of. And in terms of things coming out of that, honestly, Jennifer might be the best one. I think she had some really cool final project work, and then my understanding is maybe turned it into essentially consulting work.
Wow.
If not the projects directly, then what she learned from them. Yeah.
Cool. Amazing.
I have a question for the team that did the storyboard. The first one, I think it was like Angela. I don't know everybody that was on it, but are they still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
How did you guys do the visuals so that it looks like comic books?
It was actually using Copilot, I believe. Yufa, do you want to step in?
Yeah, we use Dolly. Just lots of prompting and, making sure it's consistent, making sure you like the styles. Yeah, and right now I'm at my limit for the day, so.
That's great. So for anyone who doesn't know, Dolly is one of these, like AI image generator programs. I was wondering that when I saw your presentation, I was like, that looks like AI generated images, which is like such a brilliant use of them. I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
y'all nailed it. That was great.
Thank you. I wish I can come up with all the images one day, but
Jennifer, you get your hand raised.
Yes, first of all, thank you so much for the shout out. Really appreciate it and really love the course. I just had a question, which is, it seems like everyone made some really cool projects as part of this weekend that could be like super beneficial to consumers or other parties, depending on like what project they were doing. Like, how do you recommend potentially taking them from, okay, we started them or we made a prototype, to getting people using them or making them more widely available? And like, I want to figure out how to make mine available so that anyone can use it, and make like increase awareness of it in case it might be helpful for people or the climate. But do you have any tips on how to do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's really hard. There's the 80-20 rule where you can get 80% of the value with 20% of the effort, but then to get that last remaining 20% of the value, which might be, getting it to a truly shareable form, takes a lot more work. And so I don't know that there's a better answer other than putting in a lot more work. Like, a weekend of hacking is, really powerful and you can make huge strides, but not sustainable. You can do that for a weekend, you can't do that for 2 months. So if you want to take your project and turn it into something, then it really probably is finding a sustainable way to keep working on it and then putting it out there. As a result of the hackathon, the folks who won in their challenge category, we will be posting about those online, or Terra.do will be sharing them. So you will get, a little boost into the world from that. But aside from that, I think getting it out there really is just going to be doing your own marketing. And I'm not a marketing expert, so I don't have great recommendations there. It's possible. Is Ian back yet? Oh no, they're still deliberating. Ian, is a marketing person on the Terra.do team, so he might have more recommendations specifically in that vein.
Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm. It looks like one of the attendees here said they published their game on itch.io, which I haven't heard of it, but maybe it's does whoever answered that, do you want to share what itch.io is? Anne, I think.
Let Anaya maybe explain it, because she's the game developer who introduced it.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Anaya.
Itch.io is a store for games, but they also have the possibility to publish. You self-publish, so you just kind of put it there, and you have the possibility to pay to receive money, or just leave it as a open project, so anyone can play it. And ours is open, so anyone can play it directly on the browser, so you don't need to download anything to go with it. And there are a lot of amazing projects there, like mostly games, but there are also some books and some other projects.
Great. Yes, that seems like a good resource to check out for anyone who especially has a game-related submission.
Yeah, just in terms of that one as well. So let the link to the game's up in the chat. And if anyone wants to play, like from I think my perspective, please go ahead. It'd be great. We'd love to have your feedback on the game. I mean, obviously it's only a short amount of time, but it is kind of done in a standalone context. So if you've got if young people, or you just want to have a go at the game yourself, then please have a go. Obviously it's done in limited time, but it's kind of usable, I think, in what it is. So yeah, be great if anyone uses it.
Yeah, thank you. Levon, what's your question?
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to just respond to the deployment stuff. I'm not sure if you've looked at things like Heroku or Render or Verso or something like that. It might be sometimes if you have the code up on GitHub, it should be relatively simple to deploy those. So not sure about familiarity with those tools, but definitely something to to look at. I think one of the most exciting things that I've learned about kind of trying to transition the climate is how quickly folks are able to kind of deploy their their ideas just out into the world, and it's super exciting to see that. So yeah, if I guess if anyone's not familiar with those tools, I definitely would recommend taking a look. And then the other thing I was gonna say is yeah, thank you so much for putting this thing together. It's so inspiring to kind of work with people who are all trying to kind of learn about climate and trying to get some ideas together. It was just a really it was a really great experience with the team. So yeah, I really appreciate it. Also your encouragement to work in a team was really great. Jamie, so definitely appreciate that as well. And yeah, it's just been a great experience. So just no question really, just just want to say that I really enjoyed the last couple of days. It's been awesome. It's super inspiring to see what everyone's kind of come up with as well. So just yeah, feeling pretty inspired by everyone's solution. So yeah, just thank you.
Thank you. That's really great to hear. I don't want to take full responsibility for the hackathon. It really was organized almost entirely by the folks over at Terra.do. So Ian, Kirti, Cynthia, and they kind of just pulled me in to present on it, which is why in some cases I kind of had to catch up on what was going on. But it's really great to hear that folks enjoyed it. It's you're never sure when you put something out there if it's going to work for people. So it's really exciting to hear that everyone enjoyed it, and especially I think the collaboration with complete strangers on the internet. It's so fun to hear when that goes well, and it sounds like most folks had a really good time with their teams, and you know, maybe started building their climate network. So thanks for sharing that, Lamon. What other questions or comments? Honestly, really anything. We're just chatting here until Ian gets back.
Maybe everyone can just drop their LinkedIn on the chat so that it's easy to connect after this.
Yeah, sure. Maybe we can. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Jennifer, what you got? Oh, no, never mind.
Sorry, just a quick question. I hope I'm not asking too many, but like what mix of paid work versus volunteer work do you recommend in the climate space? Because like, yeah, I'm just curious how you think about that, given given a space like climate.
Paid work versus volunteer work. My personal experience, I might not be a great person to answer this because my personal experience has been so much in the paid side of things. Yeah, it's kind of a capitalist centric view, really, but we have developed a system where companies are a really accepted way to get momentum towards making change. And so it's like a really natural way to get everyone on the same page, organized around a mission and making progress against that mission. So in some ways, like it's the obvious path within our world right now is to direct your career, to align your career with fighting climate change and to do paid work. Also because, you know, we've had this experience with consulting, but folks kind of need skin in the game to really make a commitment and to like keep working on something. And we have found that when we offer things for free, often we just don't get the traction on it as when we charge for something. However, I have heard lots of folks have really positive experiences in the open source community or find opportunities to volunteer that have been really valuable. So I know it's possible. It's just not something that I have a lot of experience with.
Thank you.
Yeah. What else do we have? In the background, I can hear my toddler daughter screaming for mommy while she's like hanging out with my husband. I'm like, oops, left him alone with the baby on Father's Day. My bad.
Hi, if me again, sorry. I've got a question that's kind of like the opposite way around. So, because you're talking about technology people doing some work voluntarily, and or potentially some, am I right about that? Sort of am I right, potentially volunteering on some projects in the climate space? Is that correct, or?
I think at least some, I think at least some folks are tech folks who are looking for opportunities to volunteer. Are you asking because you have an opportunity for tech folks to volunteer on something?
Well, yeah, because I'm kind of the opposite way around, right? So I've been a geography teacher for the last well, kind of about 12 years, and obviously teaching in the UK and the state sector particularly as well, there's no money, so there's no money anywhere. But like I think there's just, it's so obvious there's so much opportunity for students learning through gaming. Students are gaming in their spare time, obviously, and some more schools have technology in the classroom as well. Like that's very different in different schools. Like some will have it in the classroom, some don't, but most people have technology at home as well. So definitely the school I've been working most recently, we've been thinking about how to what options there are for students learning through games. But there are still not that many like climate change games at the moment, or not that many that we've been aware of. There are some, but like, say we were a teacher with a really great idea for what we'd want as a game, but we can't create it because we have no software skills. Like, is there somewhere we could like publish that or connect with people and then be like, hey, do you want to volunteer for a couple of hours a week for a month or something, and you could create this game for our students, and that'd be like really useful for us, and you'd get some experience or something. Is that something that might happen or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think while there's momentum around the Slack workspace here, absolutely use the Slack workspace to connect. I think that's exactly what it's for. I imagine that as it gets further from the hackathon, that Slack workspace will have, less and less, volume of folks interacting with it. And in that case, I would really highly recommend Work on Climate as the place to go to find community. I see every day examples of both sides of that, like folks saying, I have these skills, I'm looking for a project to work on, and folks saying, I have this project, I need these skills. And so just a really excellent community resource as a place to connect with folks like this. Yeah, okay, so Stanley mentions there's also MCJ and Climate Action Tech. Yeah, there's actually a ton of Slack workspaces that are in this related field. Let me share the best aggregator resource that I know of. It's called Climate Tech Careers, and it is basically just a website that lists a bunch of other climate-related websites. So on that website, there's a community section that lists basically all of the most relevant climate-related Slack communities. The biggest ones that I've personally seen a lot of volume on is Work on Climate, My Climate Journey, and Climate Action Tech can have some volume. And then there's like kind of increasingly specific workspaces. So if you don't just want to work on climate, but you want to work on direct air capture, there's like a direct air capture workspace. Or if you specifically want to work on the distributed energy revolution, there's a distributed energy revolution task force climate community. And yeah, I'm on these workspaces probably daily because it's just like part of my job. And they just have a lot of action, a lot of volume of folks making connections. Would highly recommend them. What other questions do we have? Oh, I see Jennifer asked a question in the chat. Let's see. In this case, we provided challenges to work on outside of hackathons. How do we find challenges to work on? If you want to work on problems at the intersection of climate and AI, how do you find what's needed? Really the same answer. I think these communities, just like they have all the people on it. And if you go ask in the community, you're like, I have these skills, I want to work in this space. Does anybody need help? I think that's your best bet of finding folks. It's the most like concentrated community of people who care about the same things. Thoughts on fractional consulting? Yeah, this is exactly what we do. So my husband and I, Jason, and I, we run our company. It's called Option Zero. We are basically essentially just software consultants who only work with clients who are fighting climate change. And the range of services that we provide range from essentially fractional CTO services at the most abstract end down to just straight up software engineering, writing code, contractor services at the other ends. And that has worked really well for us. I think maybe if you want to talk more about that, maybe find a way to contact me, maybe like ping me on Slack and I can answer more specific questions in that space. What else do we have? Drew, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, which industry within climate tech industry do you think is like booming right now, or has like a big impact, or let's say like needs a big impact? Because there's like energy, there's transportation, but from your experience on with the course and everything.
Typically, I don't think I have an answer for that, other than my experience of the vast swath of climate change fighting related industries is that they're all yes and. So we need to do everything. And so in some ways, at least the way my brain works, I can get really bogged down in optimizing and finding the best thing to do. And in practice, almost always the more important thing is to start doing something and build momentum on that. Someone shared this quote with me once that I think about a lot, and it's momentum motivates and stillness stifles. And it's often better to just get started, to just take the first step, just so you have momentum in a direction. And then even if you do that for a little while and you realize it's exactly the opposite direction than you want to be doing, that with the momentum, it's easier to just change direction and keep having momentum versus if you just stayed at the original place and didn't take any test steps in any direction, that's just really demotivating.
Yeah.
This is actually one of the things that we say the most about our course is we're like, if you are a software engineer and you want to work on climate, you do not need our course. You just need to go find a climate tech company that's hiring a software engineer and get hired. But if you are feeling overwhelmed by the possibilities, or you just cannot figure out how to take that first step, what the course gives you is really momentum, because it has the framework, it gets you excited about all these different things that you could be doing, it gives you a taste of momentum in all the different directions, and it gives you the community of people who are also excited. And I think of the course really as this like accelerant providing momentum in making the transition into climate tech. And maybe you won't do any of the things we did in the course, but because you've had this, multiple weeks of thinking about it and making it part of your life, you'll have the momentum to do something.
Right. No, that was very, very well said. Yeah.
Does that answer your question? I basically didn't answer your question. I was basically like, I don't have an answer for you. Let me give you a different answer.
No, I think I kind of expected that. Like probably we can't single up one industry and say that, oh, energy is, let's say, the biggest thing. No, you gotta like do it everywhere. So yeah, that was like a good answer, I think.
Yeah, really the answer is I think find the thing that you're most excited about, because I'm sure that needs doing.
Right.
Okay, Amaru has like maybe a better answer, which honestly we do talk about in the course. So Project Drawdown does do this framework of solution sectors, and they're basically looking at, given only the technologies we have now, where do we need to scale those existing technologies to add up to the sum total of impact that we need to have? And then they prioritize, they basically show the percentage that each sector will have on the final solution. And so I can't think off the top of my head, but I think it's probably like, making transportation more efficient is a big chunk of the pie. So if you want to just go find the biggest chunk of the pie, you could go work on that. But honestly, because the problem is so big and so many people are going to be working on it, all of the chunks of the pie need doing, and you don't have to pick the biggest one. Your impact is going to be a tiny, tiny slice of the pie in any case.
Right.
What other questions do we have? Just checking on the breakout room and see if we still have, judges are still deliberating. This is good feedback for next time. We need to give them more than a half an hour to deliberate, apparently. Any other questions? Anyone who's been thinking of asking a question, but you just haven't quite done it yet? Okay, questions for you all. This is what I always do in our course when we run out of questions. I ask the fellows questions. I'm very curious to hear feedback on maybe the thing that was best about this hackathon for you and the thing that you would most want to change, that you'd most want to be different if we did it again. I'd love to hear any answers to either of those questions, really. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
I'll do. Oh,
Levon, I'll do you next.
okay.
Sorry, is it my turn?
Yeah, it's your turn. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, so I just wanted to give some feedback in regards to the presentations. We were the last ones and our presentation got interrupted. So we didn't really get to do our full demo or receive questions. So just wanted to, give some feedback into maybe organizing or setting more strict boundaries in terms of presenting or how to organize that. Because we were the last ones, kind of trailed over and then we just got cut off. So
I'm really sorry to hear that. That is really
feedback.
important feedback. Yeah, thank you for letting me know. We'll definitely take a note of that and do our best to fix that.
Great, thanks.
Levon, what was your question or feedback?
I was gonna say that I think our team like really benefited from the office hours. Like it was really kind of cool to like have that sort of like break up and just kind of like, talk to somebody who's like maybe not part of the the ideation and kind of get their feedback on the direction. And like I think we got a lot of great sort of feedback from that. So that was a really fun thing. Those office hours were really, really cool. So
That's really good to hear. I was actually really curious if those were going to be helpful. I wasn't sure if having random office hours in the middle of a hackathon was something that folks would take advantage of, but great to hear you left it. We will probably continue those. I saw someone else had their hand raised. Did you want to add your comments, whoever that was? Drew, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the best part was like obviously collaborating with random folks, and I like the way y'all had arranged us based on our skill set. So that was like a really good technique. What I felt where we struggled was like the Loom video uploading. Like it was sort of like we couldn't figure out how each one of us could talk, and then some kind of an audio issue. Maybe it's just a personal thing, but how I've seen it in other hackathons, like people just upload like a YouTube video on their personal account. So maybe like if that's also an option that's given, so that maybe we can record it on Zoom or something and then like upload it on YouTube and then like upload that. Just maybe our technical understanding was not great with Zoom, but that was
that's really helpful, very concrete. So you're saying you basically had technical challenges with Loom for having multiple presenters.
Yeah, like one of us had to then present the entire thing, and that was a little difficult for that person. So yeah.
Right. Okay, yeah, that's
amazing.
Very concrete, and we can do something different next time around. Thank you.
Yeah.
Amara, your comment.
Yeah, I think in addition to what I shared earlier about like having like a 24-hour like you heard everyone's thing and then you can pivot, that would be really fun. But I think Curdy and team did a phenomenal job anchoring the hackathon on something that's already real, like having organizations. I think that really helps speed up like hackathons because it's a very specific ask. So I thought that was really genius.
All right, so you really liked having the sponsoring companies who are like, this is a thing that we think about.
Yes.
And okay, that's really great feedback. Yeah, I thought that was really fun. That was absolutely all Terra.do. They tracked down all the partners, and I was really impressed by the folks that they managed to get to come participate. So yeah, that's good to hear. Looks like the judges are going to be returning shortly. Let's just do one more comment from Richard. Did you want to share your comments?
I was just gonna follow up on the specificity of the ask was sort of like blessing and a curse.
Mm-hmm.
I went on the insurance dashboard and I was attracted by the specificity. And I really enjoyed recursing into the problem space. But obviously it eats into implementation time, which I don't think is actually a problem for a hackathon, right? If it's this is sort of the purpose of it. And actually, I think less than ideal circumstances are, I think, actually totally okay for a hackathon because, you know, working with what you have is sort of it is a discrete skill set for the climate going forward. So I think overall great success, and thanks for putting it all together.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, I do find often that, or I think this is a common thing, that having limitations really inspires creativity. Okay, looks like we have our judges back. Let me stop sharing. Ian, do you want to just take it away? I don't know, drum roll.
Yeah, we have category winners as well as a grand prize winner. I guess we can really quickly run through the category winners, just kind of like do a whole run up to it. For the climate action education game, the category winner is Terra Park. Congrats. For the climate resiliency property insurance dashboard, the Re-Ask Challenge, we have Climate Risk. Abid, do you have a category winner yet, or is that coming in a minute? We're down to the wire. I will circle back.
I couldn't edit that, so yeah, you can Shire. Oh, I couldn't edit the thing, but yeah, it's just Shire.
Oh, there it is. Shire source. Yeah. Congrats. I've got you in there now. For the real-time energy insights for consumers, we have the Consumer Energy Insights Assistant. For the residential litter cleanup map, we have Keeping It Local. In the detecting monitored emission sources, the Honorable Gerbil team, which is a surprise as the only one in that category. And in the Getting Started Guide for Green Software, we have Green Software Guide 101. I have circled it so many times on my paper because I have on accident before in the past in like high school done the wrong team accidentally. So I'm not going to screw this one up. The all-time winner, and I will say this was so close, it was down to one vote, was Climate Risk. They have won the hackathon. So congratulations. Yeah, sorry that was a very long deliberation, but very, very thorough. Talked about everyone, and yeah, I think it was an amazing project. All the projects were absolutely amazing. I was blown away what all of you guys have created over this weekend. Truly phenomenal. I know we're a little bit out of time. Do we want to run through that one at all? We can do the presentation real quick. If not, everything is going to be on the website. We're going to have all the category winners. We're going to have the grand prize winner up on there in the next hopefully hours and maybe a couple days. I'm about to go.
Ian, can you say the names? Like who won?
Yes.
The people and the teams, you mean?
Yes, please.
Do you have that up, Jamie?
Yes. So the grand prize winner, remind me again so I don't get it wrong. You said Climate Risk, right?
Climate Risk. Judges, I got that right.
Okay.
Climate Risk.
Okay, Climate Risk, we've got congratulations to Drew, George, Amaru, and Austin.
Oh my God, sorry.
Good job, team. That's incredible. I'll actually drop a link to the grand prize winner Loom, since only half of our attendees got to watch it, the ones who were in my breakout room. I think we probably should wrap it up there, but as Ian said, we'll be posting a bunch of this on social media.
Yes, and we'll be sending emails out as well, and we'll reference sort of the project database so everyone can watch all the projects. If you're in the other breakout room, then you can see what everyone has created. Cool.
All right, thanks everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you all. Wonderful weekend. Enjoy your Sundays.
Congrats.